Hello friends, this video on improvement in food resources part 3 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Let's talk about crop variety improvement. So what do we actually do to improve the variety of the crop, and why at all do we need to improve the crop variety? So what is crop variety improvement? It is basically improving or finding a variety of crop that gives better yield. Now, whenever we think of any crop, let us suppose you think of wheat, you think of maize, you think of any vegetable. So you think of any crop, that particular crop will have a lot of variety. So what do you mean by variety? For example, when you go to buy rice in a shop, what happens? There are so many varieties of rice which are available, right? So you will have so many different names for each variety of rice. They'll have different prices, they'll have different characteristics, right? So for each and every crop you have a lot of varieties which are available. So now in this crop variety improvement, what we actually do is we try to implement a technique by which we try to find out the variety which gives the better yield. So we try to improve the variety of a particular crop, or we try to find a variety of a crop that can give a better yield, and we make use of that particular variety of crop. So we'll use that improved variety, so we will get better results. It is something like that, right? So now we will talk about the technique which is actually implemented in order to improve the variety. So before that, let us see, why do we actually do this crop variety improvement? Why do we need to improve the crop variety? That's because to get better yield, that is the first and foremost requirement. That means, what do we mean by better yield? That means the productivity per acre would increase. So the productivity would increase with a better variety of crop. Improved quality, again, since you are actually improving the variety of that crop, so you are also ensuring that it is of better quality. Now each crop will have its own quality, as I mentioned before. For example, when we talk of the pulses, so the pulses are rich in protein. So that means the more protein they have, the better the quality is. Similarly, if I talk of wheat, or if I talk of any other cereals, so they are a good source of carbohydrates. Similarly, when I talk of the oil seeds, they should have good oil quality because they are rich in oil. When I talk of fruits or vegetables, they should have the preserving quality. That means we should be able to preserve them for a longer time, because it is not that the day the fruits or vegetables are grown, the same day you are consuming it, right? So it has to be preserved for a longer period of time. So these are some of the qualities which are desired in each of the crops. So when we actually improve the crop variety, or when we actually try to find out a variety which is the best, we tend to give attention to these factors, that it should give better yield, it should be of improved quality. That means if I am trying to find out a good quality pulse, we will make sure that it should have good amount of protein. So it should be enriched with more protein. So we will say that the better the quality. Enhanced biotic and abiotic resistance. So what do we mean by biotic and abiotic resistance? Now for every crop, there is a danger that it might be attacked by some external agents. So those external agents are categorized into two types. One is biotic, one is abiotic. Biotic is derived from the term bio, and bio is something related to life. So biotic causes would include the living causes like diseases which are caused by the microorganisms, insects and nematodes. So these are all living organisms, whether it is microorganisms or like bacteria, fungi, viruses, or it is some insect, or it are the nematodes. So nematodes are also small insect-like organisms. So these are some of the organisms which can actually harm crops, they can eat up the leaves of the plants, they can cause many other kinds of damage to the plants. So these are the biotic causes which can be a hindrance to a better yield. Similarly, we have abiotic causes, that means causes which are not living. For example, drought, salinity, waterlogging, heat, cold and frost. That means when the days are too sunny, during summers, what happens? The plants start drying up. You would have observed these in your garden also. right? So when it is too much of heat, too much of summer, your plants start drying up, right? Similarly, when it is too much of cold, again the plants will not be that good. Or too much of rain, or maybe if you put too much of water in a pot, I mean much more than needed, so that water logging or the collection of water at one place, that also harms the plant. So these are some of the things, some of the abiotic causes which can harm a crop yield. So therefore, when we look for crop variety improvement, why do we want the crop variety to be improved? So that we can select a variety which has enhanced biotic and abiotic resistance. That means it can resist or it can fight with the biotic causes as well as the abiotic causes. So these kind of varieties will give better results because they will not be harmed easily by diseases, insects, or too much of water or too much of heat or cold. Correct? Okay. Lesser maturity duration. So what is maturity duration? What do we mean by maturity duration? So it is the time from sowing to harvest. You know, sowing, when you actually sow seeds of a plant. So you are just putting the seeds of the plant, right? So that is the starting phase of a plant. Now the plant seed will give rise to a small plant, then you will give it all required nutrients and the plant will start growing. So when you actually, when it is the harvest time, it is actually the time to get the crops from the field. So this entire time is known as maturity duration. That means the time from sowing, that is the initial time, till harvest, when you actually cut crops. So we can look for a variety when we are actually improving the variety. So we can actually look for a variety which has lesser maturity duration. That means this time period will be less. So what are the advantages if this time period is less? If this time period is less, what will happen? You will grow one round of crops in a lesser time. So you have more extra time now. So you can grow another round of crops. For example, let us suppose you planted something, some vegetable, say you planted cauliflower in your field, right? So let us suppose the time which it normally takes for the cauliflower, let us suppose from sowing to harvest, it is just an example, right? It is not a realistic data. I'm just giving you an example. Let us suppose the time it takes is 1 month, right? Now if we have an option that we can improve the crop variety by some technique, so what we can do, we will think that, okay, let us try to improve the variety of this cauliflower in such a way that it takes lesser time. So we can reduce that 1 month to 15 days. So if it is reduced to 15 days, that means that you got those other 15 days for free. So in those 15 days, you can grow another round of cauliflower. So that means if earlier you just grown it once, now you grown it twice. So your output has increased by 2 times, right? So if the maturity duration is less, that would mean that you can grow more rounds of crops on the same field. So your output will be more. Wider adaptability. What do you mean by wider adaptability? That means if we are able to develop varieties of crops that are more adaptable. Adaptable means they can adjust to different types of environment. So what are the advantages of that? In that case, one variety can be grown under different climatic conditions in different areas. Now let us suppose if we created a variety which has got a very wide adaptability. That means it can adjust itself in cold weather as well as it can adjust itself to hot weather. So what is the advantage of that? So the advantage is that you can grow that crop in summer season as well as you can grow that crop in winter season. So you can grow it in both the seasons, correct? So your output increased. Similarly, you can grow it in an area where it is cold throughout the year. You can also grow it in an area where it is hot throughout the year. So again, your productivity increased. So the crop yield increased, right? So if we are able to develop varieties which have wider adaptability, so our crop yield will increase. So these are some of the reasons which actually encourage us to go for crop variety improvement. Desired agronomic characteristics. What is agronomy? Agronomy is nothing but the science which deals with the plants, the different characteristics of a plant, So that is agronomy. So desired agronomic characteristics. Now different plants have different characteristics depending upon its behavior. Let us suppose if we think of cereals, if you think of wheat or rice, if you go to a wheat field or a rice field, you would see that the height of the crops are not very high. They are not tall trees and all. They have smaller height. So why do we want the height for the cereals to be smaller? We want the height, we prefer the height to be less, because lesser the height, lesser is the consumption of nutrient. Like for example, if there is a small boy who is 8 years old, and there is another man who is maybe 28 years old, who will consume more food? The one who is 28-year old, because he has got more body weight, he has got more hunger than a boy of 8 years. So similarly, if the height of the cereals are less, there is an advantage that it will need less nutrients, right? So the consumption of nutrient as a whole is reduced. So this was just an example. Similarly, for many plants, we want that their height should be more, or many other characteristics are also there in a plant, right? So we can have our desired characteristics in a plant by improving the variety of the plant. Right, so I think I have listed down enough reasons which actually encourage us to go for crop variety improvement. So now you understand why we go for crop variety improvement, so that we can improve the variety to such an extent that it can be of better quality, it can give better yield, it has enhanced biotic and abiotic resistance, it has lesser maturity duration, wider adaptability, and desired characteristics. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more videos, attempt free online test, get free study material, find tutors and mentors. Thank you once again.